present.
I just want to say hi to all of those who are joining us. We are getting ready to get started.
Indeed. Welcome everyone to Exploring Lunar Phases, how your library can support science learning. We're thrilled to have you here, and I see many people are already introducing themselves in chat, so please do let us know your name and where you're from. We'd love to hear from you, and I'm sure others would like to know who else is on the webinar here with us today. While you're getting set here and just settled into the Zoom space here, please note that we will be recording this webinar. So if that's something that you prefer not to have shared broadly, if you could just step off the webinar and then look for the archive. But otherwise, welcome and feel free to participate. Within your own view of Zoom, you have some options to control different settings. So you've got a toolbar that won't show up unless you put your mouse down there to the bottom of the screen, and it'll hopefully pop up with some options for you. And please know it might be on the top of your screen, but it's hidden until you hover over it. Please, as you're working through that chat box, make sure you are selecting all panelists and attendees so that everyone can see your notes, unless that is you would like to just reach out to the panelists separately. We also would love to just keep in touch with you on that chat box. As Christine mentioned a few minutes ago, we are the only ones who have microphone permissions just because we know it'll be an active conversation and chat, and we'll be looking for you there. So I'm not seeing any questions in the chat as far as using Zoom. I just see introductions so far. So we'll go ahead and get started. So to just start with introductions, my name is Kellyanne LeConte, and I am the Professional Development Manager with the STAR Library Network based out of the Space Science Institute in Boulder, Colorado.
Hi, everyone. My name is Christine Shupla. I'm delighted to be working today with Kelly and with Claire with the STAR Network. I'm at the Lunar and Planetary Institute down in Houston.
And hello, everybody. It says my name is Brooks Mitchell. That is one of my colleagues. I'm actually Claire Ratcliffe. I work here at the Space Science Institute as part of the NCIL team. So I'm happy to be with you all here today.
And just to note, you all might see Brooks Mitchell serving a fun role of stagehand today, and I think he's joining right now. And also online, we'll be joined by Greg Mosshammer, our web content manager, who'll be popping in with some links for you all in the chat. So for today, we would love to just go through with you all sorts of activities for lunar phases. And one of our goals for you today is just to give you a sense of what kind of an aha moment it can be for you to experience, for any learner to experience lunar phases, thinking about the pattern that they form every month, and then going a little deeper and thinking about why we have phases, why we see those shapes in the moon. And the answer is often very surprising to most people. So we hope you're in for a treat and discovering some things you didn't know through this webinar. We are going to use a variety of different approaches here. So we'll have a little bit of information for you. We'll be using poll questions, and we'd love for you to hop in and participate in those. And we're delighted to be joined by teachers who will be presenting on their own experiences in addressing this really critical topic. And we'll try to just represent as many teachers as we can. But we have two joining us today to interact with you in real time. And then we also have 3 hands-on activities that we'll demonstrate before we get into a few minutes of discussion and some resources that you might like to have as you're getting ready for your programs. And just so you know, as we're going through all of these materials, we have all of the hands-on activities linked through the STEM Activity Clearinghouse, which is a place where you can go to search for activities by age group, the length of time it takes to do that activity, how difficult the concept is, and just sort and filter and find what suits you. These activities are all sorted under a Universe of Stories collection through our partnership with the Collaborative Summer Learning Program. And we'd love for you to leave a review after you've tried these activities in your own programs and give everyone else a sense of how it went for you.
All right, folks, so to start it off, we have a bit of an interactive question here. So the first question is, how long does it take the moon to orbit the Earth? I'm going to pull up a poll question so you guys can actually click into your answer. So I'm going to give you about 30 seconds. Think about what you believe the answer is. Please just choose one answer. I think it allows you to choose more than one, but choose the one you think is the most correct. Okay, I'm going to give you about 10 more seconds. And all right, time is up. Okay, let's share the results. See what you guys think. So we have 26% said once a day. Nobody said once a week. 66% once a month, 6% once a year, and 3% it depends on the season. You guys got it. The majority got it correct. It takes the moon 1 month to make a full orbit around the Earth. Awesome. Okay. Next poll question here. What do most children think causes the different phases of the moon? So think about students you may have worked with. What do they think causes the phases of the moon? And all right, let me put that out there so you guys can choose your answer. Okay, you got 30 seconds. What do most children think causes the different phases of the moon? Please just choose one answer. Ignore the multiple choice option. Okay, lots of answers coming in. I'm going to give you guys 10 more seconds. Make your choices. And time is up. Okay, let's share those results. So quite a lot of you thought, 39% said the moon grows a little bit bigger each day until it is full, and then it gets smaller again. I totally thought that when I was a child. A lot of you said the Earth's shadow, Earth's rotation, 11% said clouds, and about 3% said the phases change according to the seasons. Okay, awesome. All right, so let's kind of dig into that. Christine, what do you have to say about that?
Hi, folks. So there's a lot of preconceptions that people do have about the causes of the phases. And in many cases, the kids do think it's all of those different things. The most common one, the most common idea is confusion between eclipses and phases. The most common idea is this idea that the phases are caused by the Earth's shadow covering the moon. In fact, that's not the case. We know that parts of the moon are reflecting light from the sun, and sometimes we see some parts and sometimes we see others, depending on the position. The way that I like to explain it to children, though, is just like the Earth has day and night, and we see a daytime side of the Earth and a nighttime side of the Earth. As the Earth turns, we see the sun, then the sun goes away, we experience night. The moon has the same changes between part of it facing the sun, and then that same part will face away from the sun as it turns. So sometimes part of the moon is having daytime and another part of the moon is going to be having nighttime. And when we look at the moon, we can see the daytime part, but we can also see nighttime because it's not always the same side that has daytime and nighttime. So when we look at the moon and half of it is light and half of it is dark, we're seeing a daytime part and a nighttime part. And those parts will change as the moon is orbiting around the Earth, and as it's rotating, we will see different parts having daytime and nighttime on the moon. And so daytime and nighttime on the moon is the simplest way I can think of to explain it to younger children. Older kids, teenagers, you can start to talk about the relative position.
All right, thank you so much, Christine. So we are very fortunate to have a couple guest speakers here with us today. These are some teachers who have a lot of experience teaching. We have Anna, who is a science instructional coach, and she has 20 years of experience teaching science, as well as Meredith Harris, who is a science and math teacher at a middle school, a former SMART STEM teacher facilitator, and has 13 years teaching middle school science. So we invited them here to share their experience coming from the school perspective of these preconceptions, or just the importance of partnering with outside learning experiences. So I'm going to go ahead and upgrade them to panelists. Oh, there she is. All right, so give me just 30 seconds to promote these two guest speakers to panelists, and they can share their experience. All right, so let's give them just a moment to turn on their cameras and their audio, and we'll pass the ball over to them.
Hi there, I hope you Yes.
Anna, you're cutting.
I have some kind of internet.
Yeah, Anna, just because of the limitations of the internet there, you might want to turn off your camera. It might make your sound a little bit better for right now while you're talking, and then turn it on when you get the chance.
Okay.
Hello, I'm here now. I'm Meredith Harris. I had to wait for the announcements. I'm at school right now, so they had announcements going on. But I'm very happy to join you all today. My name is Meredith Harris. I'm a math and science teacher right now. Before this, I had a position where I worked with all grade levels in K through 12, teaching math, science, and technology integration in the classroom. And I was very fortunate to get to actually work with Christine Shupla closely to do mobile planetarium presentations for students and all kinds of fun stuff, robotics clubs and other things like that too. So, but now I'm back in the classroom teaching half math and half science in 8th grade in Leander, Texas. But it's really nice to join y'all today. And I'm sure Anna will be right back. But let me go ahead and talk about a little bit about why this is so important to us as educators, that you guys are willing to take on and share this kind of excellent activity with students around, your areas. There are a lot of misconceptions about moon phases, and it's really fun teaching it, but it's also very challenging. And these students don't really understand where a lot of us don't really. I'll tell you, when we started doing our teacher trainings, a lot of teachers had misconceptions about moon phases as well, because it's a pretty complicated topic spatially. But I think that the biggest thing was that we had we have to look at the basis of science, where it actually came from. And science actually derives from natural observations. So back at the beginnings of doing science, we actually worked with natural observations of the world around us. And the moon is clearly one of those things that we can observe day to day and easily track its patterns. We also, one of the major tenets of science is understanding our understanding systems, and knowing how systems work together. And the sun, earth, moon system is clearly pretty important to us. When we understand how systems interact, we grow a deeper understanding of how to predict things about them. When we know how systems interact, we can build models of systems, and we can use those models to help us make predictions. So if you think about weather models, for example, the better we understand how these things interact, we can clearly make better predictions about weather. Well, the same is true about the moon. Understanding the moon and its position in space around the Earth and in our solar system allows us to predict things like eclipses and moon phases. And eclipses and moon phases have a pretty profound impact on human history and human life, as well as natural life, wildlife, and even the movement of the oceans, the tides are linked to the position of the moon around the Earth. So we have a lot of really profound reasons for trying to get children to understand the reasons and the concepts about moon phases and where we are in space and where our world is. Looks like Anna's back now. Anna, if you want to introduce yourself, sorry. Anna, I think you're still muted.
Oh, I hope you can hear me. Okay. All right, good. So, and I'm kind of barge in here, Meredith, but thank you for giving me the opening. And I'm from LaPorte, Texas. I've, again, like she said earlier, 20 years. I've taught, I've worked with the elementary teachers, but mainly I've, worked with secondary level. And I'm going to talk to you about some important reasons why we teach the moon, why it's important for the kids to learn the moon phases. And I just kind of wanted to, I don't know if I can go in and kind of talk now about why it's important from a teacher's perspective.
Yeah, Anna, sometimes your sound is still cutting in and out occasionally. I recommend, I'm sorry, I love seeing your video. Go ahead and cancel your video, but keep your microphone on and continue talking, please.
Okay, so hopefully this is better.
Thank you, thank you.
You guys are going in and out on me, so I don't know if this is, yes. So Meredith, can I go ahead and talk about the reasons why, another reason why it's important to teach moon phases? Okay, thank you, I'm getting a head shake. Good. I know coming from a teacher's perspective, one of the main reasons is that it's part of our standards, whether that be, the NGSS standards or our, or like in our case, our Texas standards. These standards are in the lunar phases to our kids at an early age. We see it at the kindergarten level where they are learning that there are objects in the skies and they're needing to understand, that the objects are there, and then also as each year on, and each standard builds upon the other from the previous year, that they're needing to be able to understand, be able to predict patterns of change by the time they hit 4th and 5th grade. And they need to know like the 4, basic phases, the number of days it takes for a rotation. So, in the elementary years, each year they're getting a lunar cycle standard. Middle school, we see, and then going back, we're tested on those lunar standards at, in Texas, at least we're tested at the 5th grade level. And then once we get into the middle school, we're tested on it at the 8th grade level, but we don't see those lunar standards, any standards on lunar cycle for a couple of years. So, anytime we have an outside entity that wants to go in and create a program that's going to take the kids through the understanding the lunar cycle is wonderful. I mean, we welcome that with open arms, because it's very difficult for kids to understand. And by the time they hit 8th grade, they've got to have a really deep understanding of it in order to answer some of the questions on their state test. So, and then on top of that, like Meredith had mentioned earlier, they're going to be tying the lunar cycle to other standards, such as the tides. And so they have to understand that relationship between the lunar cycle, the phases of the moon, and that other concept about tides. So, it's in having, and again, having, that you guys that want to, incorporate a program that teaches the kids the lunar cycle, that gives them more practice and helps them, build that deeper understanding of lunar, of the, just a basic understanding of it, and then also the time that's, that time for each piece. And so that really helps us out as, as educators. And also it helps to keep some misconceptions from forming. It in a nutshell, as far as, why, one reason why we think that teaching the lunar phases is important. I don't know if Meredith, if you had anything else to share about, I don't know if you wanted to chime in here or if you want me to keep going. Okay.
Hey, there we go. Sorry, wouldn't unmute. Yeah, we have a lot of misconceptions, a lot of challenging misconceptions. And as I mentioned, when we did our own trainings, Anna and I met Christine through a wonderful workshop that we did for several years. Actually, we were a cohort that went through a workshop. And there were so many times when the teachers, experienced teachers sitting around the table, would have very incorrect answers to some of these questions about moon phases and about our place in the universe. And so the misconceptions are ripe. And you feel like you know everything you need to know about the moon, but then you learn about exactly why eclipses happen and how the moon's orbit wobbles slightly and how the moon may come slightly closer and slightly further from the Earth, but it really is barely any impact. So there are always these misconceptions that, like, we see news stories about the supermoon and how the moon is the closest it's going to be, and then to realize that is a negligible amount, that the difference is in the distance of the moon between a supermoon and an average full moon. But really, it is about helping the kids really understand spatially where they are in the world and where our world is in space. Without that kind of understanding, we can't explore other bodies in space. We can't explore the moon without understanding exactly how to get there, when it's there, where it is. We again have slight variations in how close the moon is to the Earth, and it's very, very slight, but it can have an impact on things like tides, or there are all these things. And then you get a lot of people lately. I am gonna try not to be too mean, but there's a lot of unironic belief in flat Earth theory again, or so we see this upwelling of misconceptions coming around again and again. So it's really important, and I know that as an educator, I really appreciate having other people who are willing to step in and take on this challenging topic and work with kids on it, because it's such a fun, interesting topic, and it's such a great one because students can see the moon. You can send them outside to look at the moon, and you can have them track those changes, and really it's an experience that they can have. You can't always show them everything under a microscope that you want to show them. You can't always take them to every place to show them the geology of the Earth, but the moon is there in the sky for everybody. And it makes a wonderful demonstration of systems and all this, of how systems interact, sorry. But we really appreciate being here today. So thank you so much.
Awesome. Thank you guys so much. I did not mean to go to the next slide. Great conversations. I really appreciate both of you taking the time out of your very busy teacher schedules to give us the teacher's perspective on just why this is so important and how we can work together as communities to address these preconceptions and misconceptions that are so common. Going off of what these lovely teachers said, we sent out a survey to many teachers just to get their feedback and their experiences in teaching lunar phases. And I pulled a few quotes from these surveys just to illustrate, the importance of working with community educators like libraries. So this first quote here, the main question that we sent out was, how can lunar phases programs in libraries help students and teachers? So one teacher commented, students learn differently. So the more ways the phases can be shown, the more chance of them learning and forming a deeper knowledge base of the moon phases. Some kids just need to get it from a different environment, and then it will click. This next quote here says, it can be an entry point for students to learn and understand the phases. So maybe they've never had any kind of experience in school yet, and learning at a library will be this entry point of them spiking their curiosity and then giving them more deeper knowledge once they do learn it in the school setting. And finally, there are time limits in class. I'm sure everyone has experienced this, whether you were in school or teaching, even at a library program, but we're all limited by time. And so there are time limits in class. This will build on what we try to do. So you can really help reinforce what teachers are doing in schools. All right, we are going to jump into our first hands-on activity. How far is the moon? I'm going to pass it over to Christine.
Thanks, Claire. So we're going to do 3 activities. And the first one here is a scale model activity of the Earth and Moon. And it's really kind of important because if we have a fundamental idea of the scale of Earth and Moon, it helps us to understand more about phases. We can't we can't actually address this idea of the Earth causing shadows on the Moon without having it. So anyway, and yes, there's some interesting comments there about dinosaurs on the chat box. Let's go ahead and let's pretend like this basketball here is the Earth. So if this basketball is the Earth, how big should the moon be? Most of you know, pretty much everybody knows the moon is smaller, so we're not going to pull out a giant beach ball to be the moon. So if this is the Earth, should the moon be maybe a softball? Should it be a marble? Should it be a golf ball or a tennis ball? So tennis ball, golf ball, softball, or marble. That just went rolling away. So yeah, I'm going to let you chat things in the chat box here. We've got some different answers. We've got the activity there is written up. Somebody is voting for the marble that just ran away. Sorry about that. I dropped it. Tennis ball. Somebody's voting for the tennis ball. Tell us what you think in the chat box. What do you think? How big should the moon be if this is the Earth? If this is the Earth, should it be one of these 3 or the marble that ran away?
Yeah, guys, and please make sure you're sending your responses to all panelists and attendees.
Thank you. So, and then somebody's already jumping how far away after we get the answer. So we've got some votes for a golf ball. We've got some votes for marble. We've got some votes for softballs. We've got a little bit of everything. So I'm going to give you 5 seconds to finish typing, and then we're going to talk about the answer. 5 seconds to finish typing. Now, the way to figure it out, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. The way to figure it out, the Earth is 4 times wider than the moon, 4 times wider. So you can't fit 4 softballs across the basketball, so it can't be the softball. And you can fit a lot more than 4 golf balls, unfortunately. So the answer is indeed tennis ball. You should be able to fit about 4 tennis balls across. 1, 2, 3, 4 tennis balls across our Earth. So tennis on the moon. So we've got a tennis ball, a little moon here. We've got our Earth here. Oh, back up one. Back up one. Okay.
Sorry about that.
The next question was going to be, how far apart should they be?
No one saw that.
And we're going to do a really quick demonstration over in the hallway at Space Science Institute to show you at the scale. So if the Earth were a basketball and the moon were a tennis ball, Kelly and Claire, do we have a camera out there for you guys to use? Oh, we do.
So we're just setting it up. So if the Earth was a basketball and I am the Earth, camera's eye view, we have that tennis ball right there. That is the moon.
Up a little bit.
All right. How far from the Earth should it be? We're going to have Kelly and the moon start to walk backwards. Keep going. Keep going. Still not far enough.
Nope.
The camera just disappeared.
He went so far that the camera got pulled off of out of the socket.
Unfortunately. Okay, so we can't see it right now.
Hold on. Try one more time. Let's see. All right, yeah, down. Pull it down a little bit, Claire.
All right.
Down a little bit more. All right, that's good right there.
All right, Kellyanne, do you think that's far enough yet? All right, and what is the answer? How far away is she from the Earth?
Go to the next slide.
At this distance, yeah, it's 23.6 feet. Now the distance depends on which model of basketball you're using. If you happen to be using this one, a men's basketball, but they have different, slightly different circumferences, size basketballs, depending on whether it's a women's athletic basketball, whether it's a young preteen or kids basketball. They have them in different sizes. So it depends on the size of the basketball. But for a men's basketball, it's 23.5 feet away. So over 7 meters, pretty far. A lot farther than most people picture in their heads. And there's a nice picture here that you can see that shows them to scale. This is a real photo that was taken by a mission on its way towards Mars, away from the Earth. And it just happened to catch the Earth and Moon. And you can see there, the Moon is barely a pixel or two relative to the size of the Earth. So, and yes, Meredith typed in, it's a great demonstration. You can make one kid hold one thing and another kid, and have the others try to help you figure out how far apart to be it. Make them try a few times, make them measure it. Or if you want to make it really, really engaging and you want them to guess, instead give them each a balloon and have them inflate a balloon and try to figure out how far relative to their Earth balloon and their Moon balloon, how far apart they need to be.
All right. Awesome. Thank you so much, Christine. Yeah, really fun one to do with your kids in a room. Make sure your room is at least, 24 feet long. Yeah, just a great visual to have for scale comparisons. Our next activity here is called Lunar Phases. This is a really fun one because it involves food, if you would like to involve food. At the end, we may have some time to discuss other options if food is just not an option. But I'm going to quickly switch cameras so you can see this activity up close.
So you want to hide this one?
All right. Is it working? Okay. So hopefully you can now see, let's see, not quite. Yep, there we go. So with this Oreo moon phase calendar, which you can print straight off of our activity, link on the clearinghouse, you can see when we have different moon phases that you can see in the sky. The great thing about this activity, it's not here to explain why we have different lunar phases. It's kind of more of an introductory activity that gets your patrons familiar with vocabulary. So, you hear things like waxing gibbous and waning crescent, and people might be coming in like, I have no idea what that means. So this can really familiarize them with the terms and help your students or patrons to start to recognize patterns and shapes in the sky that they're seeing every month. Hopefully they're looking up at the sky, and this is a way to connect those things. So it's very straightforward. You can use Oreo cookies, or if you're concerned about junk food, you can always get crackers with cheese, maybe fruit, as long as the peel is a different color than the meat of the fruit. And you're modeling the phases of the moon using these hands-on food items. So I'm going to show you one real quick. We'll start with the new moon. So this June, our new moon is falling on Monday, June 3rd. You carefully break apart your Oreos, and you're going to go ahead and take a spoon and scrape off the frosting. So the new moon is pretty easy, fun. You get to
Claire, you froze. We don't hear or see you. Claire. Well, while we're waiting for Claire to come back, let's just go ahead. A number of you have posted some different ideas, other substitute items that you can use instead of Oreos, or you can draw. And what Claire was doing was she was scraping the frosting off of one side so that it would just be the Oreo cracker without any frosting. It looks like they may have had a malfunction there, so let's continue talking. You can get the frosting off of one side of the Oreo, so it's just a plain dark Oreo, and that would be the phase that we call new moon. And then yes, Oreo excitement overload. And then the other one, the side with all the frosting, would be your full moon. Now the beauty of using it on the calendars, you have the kids putting the new phase on the paper placemat that you would print out for them, where the new phase is. And you put the whole Oreo with the frosting, the full moon, on the full moon day, and they can see how far apart they are, that they're 2 weeks apart. Earlier, we talked about how long it takes for the moon to orbit the Earth, and most kids don't know that it takes a whole month, for the moon to go around the Earth. And they can start to see this pattern of how far apart things are. You can take the Oreo with half the frosting on it, so it's first quarter, and have them put that one on first quarter moon, and have them use the pictures so they can figure out which side the light is on. When the light is on the right, it's getting bright. So the light on the right would be first quarter moon, it's getting brighter. And when the frosting or the light is on the left side of the moon, it's getting darker. And so looks like Kellyanne is back. And it looks like Claire is back. So hopefully we'll be continuing in just a minute. But anyway, you can put the different phases there in different spots. For the older
switching cameras, or when did it?
Are you ready to continue, Claire? Because I was just talking while we were waiting.
All right. Sorry, folks. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay. Yep. Everything just got shut down here for a quick minute. How far did I get? Anyway, really great activity. You can find the full lesson plan on our clearinghouse. You can find that in our link bank. It's a great activity to include with a night sky viewing, since it is pretty short, easy, simple, and tons of stories. Songs can be connected with it. We have a list of recommended books and songs, but I'm sure you guys as librarians have all kinds of ideas for how you can connect this to story time. Yeah, that is our Lunar phases. Lots of fun, very popular with younger patrons. Okay, we are going to get the screen sharing back up for you guys in just 1 minute.
And while Claire is getting that up, for the older kids, you can challenge them to figure out where to put the crescent and gibbous phases.
Thank you all for bearing with us through these technical difficulties. All right, I'm going to share my screen again so we can get back into the PowerPoint and continue. If you don't want to use the calendar, if that's a little more complicated, then this activity also comes with a downloaded link to this Cookie Moon phases. This is great for even younger patrons. You can just make your Oreo shapes and place it directly onto the shapes. That can be one way to differentiate between younger and older participants.
Okay. So the last activity we were going to discuss is modeling moon phases. Now, anytime you're actually modeling the cause of moon phases, you have to be a little bit careful because it's so easy to confuse people a little bit. The traditional way is generally a styrofoam ball, but I really, really, really love using golf balls because they fluoresce under black lights. So you would use the black light and the golf ball. We've glued them to tees, and you can get them donated in many cases, old used golf balls, although you don't want them too old because they won't fluoresce if they're too old. Now for this model has some limitations. In this model, the light is going to be the sun. The golf ball is going to be the moon. And my head is going to be the earth. But I can't put them at the same scale that they really should be, right? Because if this is the moon, and my head, you can fit 4 golf balls across my face, so that's about right. My head is the earth, but at this scale, it should be on the other side of the room, and my arms aren't long enough, and I won't be able to see it very well. So we're not going to actually use it at that distance. So we're not doing the model at the correct scale. And we're also going to accentuate one other aspect, the moon's orbit. As the moon goes around the earth, so let's go back to our earth. As the moon goes around the earth, it doesn't stay in the same plane the whole time. It actually orbits slightly above the plane of the earth sun system and slightly below, but only 5 degrees. And we're going to exaggerate that. So instead of having it go just around me like this, I'm going to instead have it sometimes below at my waist, and sometimes sideways, and sometimes way up above my head as it goes around the earth. So to let you see what this would look like, we've got a video, and we're going to play that next. Claire, can you go to the next slide and play the video? So here's a golf ball, and it's in a darkened room with a black light. And as we have the golf ball going around, the person holding the golf ball is turning. And as the person holding the golf ball is turning, you can see different parts of the golf ball being lit by the black light. And it's now full, and then it's going to start waning. The light on the left is on the left, it's getting less. So 3rd quarter moon, and all the way down to crescent moon, a waning crescent moon, and back to new moon. Can we go ahead and play that one more time, and let's talk about the phases a little bit. So it starts off here at new moon, where we're only seeing the side that's not the nighttime side of the moon. And now we're seeing daytime and nighttime 1st quarter moon. The light is getting bright. Gibbous moon. Gibbous means humpbacked. It's getting bigger and bigger and bigger. Waxing gibbous moon. Full moon. And then it's going to start waning. It's getting less. The waning gibbous moon, again, waning humpbacked moon. 3rd quarter moon, it's gone 3/4 of the way around the earth, and waning crescent moon, like a crescent roll, and back to new. That whole process in real life takes a month. It takes the moon a month to go all the way around the earth and for us to see all of those phases. So each phase lasts a day, 2 days, 3 days. And there's lots of pointers here in the chat box. So it's a fun activity. Little kids, preschool, elementary age children can use this to observe the phases, but they're not really going to understand why we have phases by doing it. Not really, not completely. It really takes a mature understanding to put all the pieces together to completely understand why we have phases. It's generally considered appropriate for middle school and high school. You can do it as a fun activity with smaller children. With the older kids, they can really start to put the pieces together and figure out what's going on. And if the younger kids have a really good spatial reasoning ability, and if they've got lots of exposure to the moon phases and understand what the phases are, and a deeper understanding, they might be able to start putting it together. But we wanted to let you know about it. And Ken puts down it'd be a great demo for International Observe the Moon Night. Got some different things. And yeah, don't just model it for them where you do it and let them watch, because what they're going to see is they're going to see the same phase from their point of view. So wherever they're sitting, if all they're seeing is, if they're sitting on the side, they're just going to see 1st quarter moon the whole time. If they're sitting in front of you, they're going to see full moon the whole time. They're not going to see the changing phases unless they are doing it themselves. So that's a great point. Please make sure each person is doing it. And if you don't have enough golf balls to go around, we usually don't, you might want to have half of them do it while the other half sit and watch, and then switch. Have them take 5 minutes to do it and then switch off. They'll be busy, excited about the darkness as well. With the black lights, don't use the little black light bulbs. The little ones aren't going to be bright enough to see it unless you are right next to it. On the other hand, the big ones, they work quite well. Sometimes we'll do 2 or 3 of them back to back so people can stand in a big circle around it. Or sometimes we'll put one on one side of the room and one on the other side of the room and have half the kids go to one side and half go to the other side. And the black lights you can buy at stores like Walmart or at the mall or on Amazon pretty cheaply. And take them home afterwards and use them for Halloween. So does anyone have questions they'd like to post now in the chat box about the activity? There's a whole bunch of us who have done this activity before who can answer your questions. So if you've got questions about this particular activity and how you would do it, or suggestions about how you would do it, now's a great time. We're going to give you just about 2 minutes to post questions. Or maybe we should continue if no one has questions. We'll continue to talk as how long will all 3 activities take? That's a great question, Felicity. So the first activity, the modeling of the Earth Moon system, I would plan on taking at least 15 minutes for that one, maybe as long as half an hour, depending on the discussions and things, but at least 15 minutes. The Oreo phases, you'll probably want to set aside a good half an hour for that one. Other people, Anna, Meredith, Kelly, and Clara, please feel free to jump in as well with your thoughts. And then for golf ball phases, I would take at least half an hour to do it with the kids. So you're not talking about trying to get everything all done in the same half an hour session. You're probably going to spread them out a little bit. And there's other activities as well that you can throw in. As Kellyanne pointed out, the dance under the sun, you get to do the golf ball outside, or you can do it with a ping pong ball outside and you use the sun as the sun. So that's pretty neat. And it's really awesome to actually hold up something in front of the sun and see that it has the same phase as the moon. Hold it up in front of the moon during the daytime and see that it has the same phase as the real moon. It's a real aha moment.
Definitely, whatever format works for you all in terms of getting a light source and a ball that can be the moon and letting people explore and see how those phases are formed. It can be helpful too in terms of visualizing what you're doing. If you have pictures of the different phases of the moon so that people can try to copy those phases, that sometimes really helps them see what's going on. But really the whole idea is that you're looking at that as a way to see how you see, as Christine was saying, that night side and that daytime side of the moon, where it's not at all Earth's shadow causing those phases. It's not the clouds, it's not the seasons. It's really just us seeing the day and night sides of the moon. That's really the point that we're trying to let the learners explore, and they have to discover it for themselves, because it's just not something that translates well in a book or any sort of just paper format where you're looking at it flat. It's something that moves around in 3-dimensional space, and is a really kind of tricky thing to visualize. So whatever you're able to do in your programs to help support everyone in trying that out and playing with it is really helpful.
Awesome. Well, if you guys have any questions, feel free to put them in the chat box at any time. Let's see. We do have one more poll question for you guys before we get into some final discussions. So we just, after all of this, after listening to our amazing teachers and seeing our activities, thinking about all of that and your programs at your specific libraries, in what way will you incorporate moon phases activities into your programs? So we have kind of a spectrum of different answers, and we'd like to hear where you guys are at the moment. So I'm going to put this poll out there so you guys can let us know. So I'm going to give you 1 minute, think about it, and shoot us your answer. You have 1 minute. Okay, 30 seconds.
It's a fast 30 seconds.
Yeah, a minute's a bit long.
Yeah.
So.
All right, 5 more seconds. And okay. Let's see. All right. It doesn't look like any of you don't want to facilitate anything. So that is awesome. That makes me very happy. It looks like the majority of you are excited to try moon phases activities. Awesome. Thank you so much for giving us that feedback, you guys. All right. We do have some discussion questions, and if you could please just answer in the chat box, we'll try to address as many as we can. But thinking about those 3 activities that we just modeled for you, what modifications would you make to the activities?
I wanted to jump in here and add too that I realized that you might have already seen, if you're part of the collaborative summer library program, you might have already seen in the children's manual that there is an activity about eclipses. And so we're curious too to just see how you would phrase this all and frame it so that everyone could explore this and see how those eclipses are that special occasion where the shadows and all that little moon ball way far away all lines up to make that shadow versus our everyday regular Oreo cookie moon going through its phases. What would you do and how would you make it your own?
All right, so I'm seeing some modifications on the type of food. So rather than Oreo cookies, provide fruit. I do know Oreos are dairy-free, so they are an option if you have lactose intolerant patrons, but obviously they're not the healthiest. So having fruit, I think, is a great idea.
Yeah, we've used gluten-free ones. Oreo cookies, we've used, regular Oreo cookies, of course. You can do like cream cheese sandwich cookies. There's a plethora of different cookies that you can use to make that activity. Yeah, cheese on crackers.
I want to use the Ritz crackers with the spray on cheese. I haven't done that yet.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Oh, that's a good idea, Kendra. Pineapple slices.
I wanted to also note Ashley has a comment about the expense of the program and thinking about that for an activity choice. And you're right, the daytime exploration of phases is very inexpensive. It just takes a ball, and you could just get a styrofoam ball and stick it on the end of a pencil, and voila, you've got a moon with a handle. And you just go outside and use the sun's natural light. That activity really works wonderfully if you can plan ahead and know which phase the moon is in, and make sure you're going outside when there's a moon visible in the sky. And the activity write-up has guides and resources for you to be able to calculate when that would be. So that's a cheap way to go. And then lots of great ideas for different food items that could be used for those phases and the patterns. So great ideas, everybody.
Ooh, paper plates to cut into the phase shapes with using puffy paint with the ability to make craters. Awesome. So kind of not using a food item, but turning it into a craft. That sounds great. And if you need to take off early, that is totally fine.
The question about making the room totally dark, it doesn't have to be completely dark, but you want it to be fairly dark. If there are windows, if you can put blinds up, that's great. If there aren't any blinds and you've got windows, then it has to be pretty overcast to work. If it's a bright sunny day and you've got windows and no blinds, then you've got a problem. We've done it in rooms where all of the lights except for one would turn off. Depends on how bright that one remaining light is. If you can't turn off the lights at all, then it's not going to work. And yeah, the moon, if you're using golf balls, it already has craters, and you can, I suppose, make the man in the moon or the rabbit in the moon if you wanted to. The idea about paper plates, somebody had posted, somebody had mentioned during one of our librarian workshops recently that they were going to use glue on the paper plates. And I'm trying to remember if it was glitter or something like that to make the phases, glue and glitter or something along those lines to make phases. Black paper. Yeah, so I'm drawing the shapes with glue. So anyway.
Awesome. Yeah, definitely a lot of craft ideas. Just being cognizant of the time, I'm going to move on to our last discussion question. How can you, oh, sorry guys, my computer is very jumpy on, oh my gosh. Wow.
We can just read it off, right?
I have this thing with my computer. If I leave my mouse hovering in a spot, it will automatically click it. I need to work on that, so I apologize. All right, last question. How can you partner with a teacher for help? What are some of your guys' ideas?
So we've specified that there are just so many different ways that people have different ideas about moon phases that might be confusing. And we don't expect all librarians to know everything about everything. So, and put down ask. And that's a great way. Go ahead and ask if you want a teacher to help, what sorts of ways that a teacher can help? Invite them to come and present. Awesome. During a workshop, that's a great idea. Invite them to come and help with the presentation. Are there other things you could do if you don't want to, or if the teacher's not available to come present, or if there's other, what other roles could teachers play at your sessions, or how else can teachers help you? Let's go on to the next. Great. Encourage students to come to the events. Absolutely. You can borrow materials from the teachers. The teachers might have some classroom materials that you can use. You can find out what the teachers are already doing when it comes to moon phases. It might be a grade where they're not teaching moon phases, or it might be a grade where they are. You can build upon what they're doing. The next slide actually has some suggestions. And Anna, do you want to, if you have any other suggestions that you'd like to type in? I know that Meredith had to take off to go get her kids, but Anna, if you have any things that you'd like to type in as well, some ideas on how you would like people to work with librarians and how you recommend that some of the teachers that you work with could work with librarians, your ideas are welcome. And we know some of you are leaving, so but if you have questions about moon phases, of course, a teacher might be able to help you with some of your questions. And they can also give you some ideas about what issues the students are facing when it comes to moon phases. And yeah, you can go to the classroom, ask permission to go see what the teachers are doing. I know we're almost out of time. So Claire, I think we're going to let you wrap it up. You and Kelly.
All right, thanks guys. For these last 2 minutes that we have here, I just want to put a little plug in for our Universe of Stories Summer 2019. So NASA at My Library and StarNet are partnering with the CSLP to support over 16,000 libraries in this summer of reading. We are celebrating the 60th anniversary of the formation of NASA and the 50th anniversary of the first lunar landing this summer. And so in celebration of that, the summer reading theme is Universe of Stories. So please check out starnetlibraries.org/summer of space. That is a register link, so you can join, thousands of other libraries across the country. Also check out free giveaways that we're involving and other types of resources like that. So please check this out and consider joining. It would be awesome if you guys joined. If this is separate from NASA at My Library, so if you're already registered for that, this is a separate registration. Just check out that link and you can learn a lot more about it there. And one last plug of StarNet. If you don't already know, starnetlibraries.org is an incredible free resource that we have for you guys. You can find professional development resources, such as webinars like the one today, also recorded previous webinars that you can check out on all kinds of different topics, newsletters, blogs, forums, videos, all kinds of stuff. So definitely check this out. It's a great place to find ideas and activities for your for your library programs. Thank you guys so much. Just a reminder, please fill out the survey with your feedback after today's webinar. Greg just posted the link right there. Click on that. It'll take just a couple minutes, and it would really help us out a lot. And also, you will get your certificate of completion as soon as you finish that survey. But yeah, I think we're right at the end here. Thank you all so much for coming. Feel free to shoot me or any one of us an email if you have questions or if you have comments or anything like that. I'm going to drop my email in here. And I hope you guys all have a great day.
And thank you so much, Anna, and to Meredith as well, so much for joining us. It was our pleasure to have you here.
All right, guys. Have a great day.